Hi everyone, Christina here. As promised in my last video, I have some more inspiration for you using products from the Good Vibes release from MISTI Stamp. Starting out with this Debra die. This is actually a design that I created as a stencil a while back, and it was wildly popular, so customers asked for a die to be created using that same design, so that's how this die design came about. I'm using some glitter paper from Simon. This is the gold color, and I'm running it through my Big Shot machine twice. You'll notice I'm running it through this way with the long edge toward the rolling mechanism. And now I've rotated it 90 degrees, and I'm going to put it through with the short end going in first. And I'm actually going to roll this through. I'm going to kind of go back and forth a little bit. I like to do this with really large, intricate dies like this when I'm using glitter paper. I discovered with that really glittery snowflake card that I made around the holidays that this glitter paper sometimes just needs a little bit extra attention. It needs a little hand holding to get it to work just right, but it does die cut absolutely beautifully using a lot of die cuts. It's mostly just these really intricate die cuts that it needs a little bit more to make it work. So I wanted to include this in the video, and it's sped up super fast. I spent about 5 minutes poking out all of those little intricate areas. It's completely worth it because this die is just gorgeous and beautiful, especially with that glitter paper. So to go behind that die, behind the die cut, I'm going to use the Center Cut Geometric Pattern Background Stamp. And I really love this pattern on this stamp because it's not really specific toward any type of a card. It can be used for a lot of different cards. It's just a really great basic to have in your stash. So I'm going to be stamping onto some black cardstock from MISTI Stamp. I've actually scored it and folded it so it's a card base, and I just use a little bit of adhesive on the inside to keep that card closed while I stamp. I'm using some Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink, which is a pigment ink, so it will show up on this dark surface. I'm using some MISTI Creative Corners to get that card base in there just right, and that makes it so I can stamp all the way past the edges of the card base and get a really nice impression of this background stamp. So I'm going to actually let this dry for a little bit because it does take a little bit of time to dry because it's a kind of a pigment hybrid ink. And while that's drying, I'm using some adhesive from Nuvo, and I'm adding little dots of adhesive all over this as well as on the border. Now, I think it might have actually been smarter to use a spray adhesive on the back of this glitter piece, just because it's so intricate and it took quite a bit of time to get all of that adhesive on there. So I'll link to some spray adhesive down in the supply section if you're interested in that. But I don't know why I didn't think about spray adhesive at the time. I decided to just use liquid glue. And because I had to trim down that border area around the outside of the die, it doesn't cut that for you. I had to trim that myself. It was a little bit off from my card base, so I used a T-square ruler and an X-Acto knife or a craft knife to cut that. I then used the Big Friend die set. This is also from the release. This is some of my own calligraphy, so I really love that this die came out. I'm excited to use it. And I cut it out of some white cardstock as well as some vellum. I'm now using the Vacation Time stamp set, and I'm just going to grab a little tiny, really long strip of words for my greeting here. I'm going to stamp it in some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm just going to press that down with my MISTI. And notice my fingers barely glide across that. I don't press very hard. With these little tiny word stamps like this, if you have a good ink with it, you don't need to press hard on your MISTI. You don't want it to squish your stamp down and make the letters too bold. So I'm adhering that white friend die cut onto the vellum. And I also wanted to not cut away or edit this part. I usually do because it's a little bit fussy. But I wanted to show you this because I wanted to let you guys know that with these word dies that go on top of like a shadow outline die cut, that sometimes you need to manipulate the words so that they fit inside. When your die cutting machine, when it rolls through, sometimes it can kind of stretch the paper a little bit. So it might not be perfect as is when it comes out. So you might need to move that around. So for this case, for this intricate die, I would not recommend using a spray adhesive, only because you wouldn't have that kind of slippery opportunity to move that around. Like if it's a really sticky adhesive and it's already dry, the minute it sticks to that vellum, it's not going to move around. Or it's very hard to move around. So you might want to use a liquid adhesive for this particular instance. So I put some more liquid glue on the back, and then I stacked a bunch of acrylic blocks on top, just because I needed something that had a little heft to it, a little bit of weight, just to hold that down so it would adhere to all of that glitter paper. I'm going to take some really thin foam adhesive strips from Debra, and I've cut them down to just the right size to go behind this greeting. And actually cut that greeting into 2 strips so that it would fit my card a little bit better. And then I use some tweezers to place that onto the card, and I press down on the greetings. The last thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of gold sequins. These gold sequins match the gold glitter paper perfectly. Sometimes you can have a little bit more of a yellow gold, but this is kind of a neutral, almost a little champagne-y gold color, and these gold sequins match perfectly. So I used some Ranger Multi-Medium adhesive for that, with a precision tip on top. So that's my card for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. There's a ton of really fun, amazing products in this release, and I hope you'll check it out. I'll have a link down in the video description and over at my blog. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.